Okay, hello everybody. So ever since the shooting of Donald Trump, the attempted assassination that happened on July 13th, um, people have been asking all sorts of questions. You know, why was the shooter so successful? Why was the shooter able to get a shot off at Donald Trump in the first place? Why do the Jews want Trump dead so badly? In order to answer these questions, we've brought on a leading physicist and a good friend, Henry. Um, and I really don't know anything about the conspiracy theories pertaining to the shooting. Um, so we brought on Henry such that we could inquire further and hopefully get to the truth by the end of the podcast. Well, do either of you guys have anything else to say?
Henry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Henry Morant, and I'm actually not a physicist. I just have, I guess, like a bachelor's degree in physics, but whatever.
You're a quarter of a physicist.
A quarter.
He's being humble. He's being humble.
Well, anyway, but I think when it comes to this, I think you guys invited me on because I do have like an interest in conspiracy theories in general that is somewhat independent of my physics degree. So.
Indeed.
But yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, so maybe walk us through the shooting. I mean, what background information do we have about the shooter? How did the shooter, do we know anything about the shooter's motivations? And perhaps most importantly, how did the shooter carry out the shooting in such a way that he was able to avoid, whatever mechanisms were in place to prevent assassinations of presidential candidates? I mean, that's a lot of questions, but maybe just start with, I guess our background knowledge about the shooter and how everything kind of unfolded.
So the shooter's name was Thomas Matthew Crooks, and we don't know a huge amount about his ideology or motivations or whatever. We know that he donated $15 to Act Blue, which is this Democrat re-election fund or commit. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like where you donate money to, and they spend money on campaigns. And that was the day. So he donated $15 to Act Blue on January 20th, 2021, which is the exact day that Joe Biden became sworn in as president. And then months later, in September, when he registered to vote, he registered as a Republican. And then we don't really have much else information about him that gives us any indication of his motivations. I mean, presumably he didn't really like Trump that much because he tried to shoot him, but yeah, that's outside of that. We don't really know much about him, I guess, or at least there's not a huge amount of indications about his motivations.
Well, I heard he was in a BlackRock commercial. What's that about?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he was. Well, that seems to have just been a random coincidence. They did
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of that today. It's just a random coincidence, guys.
Yeah, so they, BlackRock did this, I think, ad where they went to, his high school, and, I don't remember what the ad was for. They may have been trying to promote, school education stuff. I'm not sure. I haven't, but from what I understand, he was, basically one of the random students that just happened to be in the film because he was a student at the high school, and he wasn't paid or anything. He was just one of the people who just happened to be there. That's my understanding of that. Oh, go ahead.
Last Google search was for pornography. I think that's it's maybe we have a causal link there between pornography and tendencies to political figures.
Right, I can see that.
Yeah, so I mean, okay. Besides the pornography, we do know that he was
Well, what
looking
was
up.
the pornography? What kind of
I
porn?
did not. They did not reveal what it was.
Oh, okay.
They just said it was pornography.
It's a little suspicious, but okay.
Uh, yeah. I think it was the FBI that said that to a bunch of some journalists. I'm not sure if that was like. Yeah, they just said like it was pornography. They didn't say. I don't remember them saying like any specific type of pornography. I think the FBI does not think that's very relevant, to be honest. The type of pornography.
Weird. It's kind of weird that they don't.
I
think it's
suspect
that relevant, and
they don't think it's that relevant. But we do know that he did look up the locations, I think, of Trump rallies, and he also looked up like the date and location for the Democratic National Convention and some other politicians. I think he also looked up images of Biden and Trump. So, you know, it's possible that he was just trying to shoot any major candidate, and just that happened that like Trump was nearby. But, you know, I don't know. That's preliminary. Maybe they'll find something significant that'll indicate his motivations.
Okay. So
yeah.
I guess the picture I'm sort of getting is like the information we have right now. There's not really anything that gives us a helpful indication of like what the shooter's like motives were or anything like that.
Yeah, because he does things that will kind of annoy everyone on the political spectrum, like donating to the Democrats, registering as a Republican. So, but yeah.
So I guess like until like more is uncovered, we're sort of in the dark right now about like exactly like why did he try to kill Trump, just from the information that's been, you know, that we have available, that's been released, that the relevant authorities have been able to uncover about him. So I guess I think the next thing we would be interested in knowing is like, okay, so can you like walk us through the sort of timeline during which he took the steps to commit his attempted shooting of like Donald Trump, like what went on there, and why was he so successful? How come he got like so close to shooting Trump? You know, given like the, you know, presumably like, you know, you would have like security there for a presidential candidate who should be able to prevent those sorts of things.
So yeah, I mean, some of this information is all kind of preliminary. Some of it comes out like in bits and pieces. I'm assuming at some point there'll be a giant report by like government investigators that will just kind of give us everything in like one big. But right now, it's only been what, like 2 weeks or 3, since the shooting. So, so it's like, you know, there's still preliminary. But my understanding is he like drove to the Trump rally location, and then like hours before he like flew a drone, I guess, around. But he didn't fly it over the stand, apparently, according to what investigators said. So, but he he flew a drone around the area, and he also had like some explosives in his car, like homemade explosives. They still don't know what he was intending to do with the explosives or why they were there, but they were in his car. And yeah, he bought like, I think 50 rounds of ammunition the day before, and like brought them with him. And he had like an AR. I think it was not an AR-15, but an AR-15 style gun. And yeah, and so then he didn't actually attempt to go into the rally. So there was like a security cordon around the rally. So you have to go through security to go to the rally if you want to, you know, if you're a Trump supporter, I guess. But he never tried to go through that. So he never had to go through any security checkpoint. What he did was he kind of found a position outside of the security zone where he had a good shot at Trump and shot Trump from there. So I think he's probably used the drone probably to like figure out where to shoot, like what was a good location to shoot from. And then I'm assuming he went to like, I mean, we don't know, but we know that someone spotted him like there were these like warehouses that were nearby. which is where he shot Trump from. So he climbed on the roof of one of these buildings. And we know that he was like in the area like before. So I think someone spotted him there. And I think police like originally spotted him, but they didn't think he was much of a threat. Well, no, they alerted him. He was one of like 3 suspicious individuals, but they didn't think he was that important because he didn't have a gun or whatever. So
yeah, as I understand it, like it was like they first noted him as like a suspicious individual, like one of 3 suspicious individuals an hour before the shooting took place. Then, if I recall correctly, like 25 minutes before the shooting took place, the Secret Service were again notified by police that he was walking around with a rangefinder, examining the distance. Which is
yes,
like
yes, I forgot about that. Yes,
yeah,
they did see him with a rangefinder. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is not a gun, but it is kind of weird, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, I would set off all the security. Yeah, and so I think like law enforcement definitely like saw him, and were suspicious of him. But there seems to have been some sort of like communication problem with the Secret Service, where I don't know like how much the Secret Service knew like of the shooter at the moment. They're still trying to, I think, like sort all that out, like why. Yeah. So I think that was 20 minutes before, right? But then, there was
25
also
minutes,
I think someone like took a picture of the shooter. I don't remember like how many minutes before that it was. One of the policemen. Yeah. Sorry, I should specify. So the area around the security perimeter. So the security perimeter, like at the rally, was run by the Secret Service, but the area around it was done by, I think, local police. So they were the ones who were supposed to maintain security in the area around the rally, which is where he was. I think one of them took a picture of him, and then they were like searching afterwards for him. Yeah, I think there was a guy. Yeah, there was a sniper team as well in like one of the buildings nearby, but they for some reason didn't realize he was like climbing the roof. There was some like confusion, I think, going on.
Yeah.
So maybe we should stop here and just like, well, maybe they've already been mentioned, so this is a redundant question, but like, if you were to lay out like just like all of this sort of security failures that went into the near success of the shooting, like how would you lay that out? Like what were all the sort of like how many sort of missteps were there in the process?
So one of them was like the building that he climbed, I think was supposed to have a local police counter sniper unit on top of like that's the same place, but they didn't go up there. And I read like 2 different sources. One source said like, oh, it was because it was too hot, so they stayed inside the building, and the other said it was just not enough manpower or something. I'm not sure why, but they ended up being inside the building instead of on top of the building, and I feel like that's kind of a mistake because they would have less like ability to maneuver and look around, I'm assuming, if they were not on top of the building. Also, if they were on top of that building, they definitely would have seen him trying to climb up. So I guess that's one. The other would be, I think, a lack of communication with the Secret Service. The SWAT team from the local police, they said that they didn't have any communication with the Secret Service until after the shooting, which seems a bit of a issue. I'm not sure what exactly went down there.
I think the one of the lead sharpshooter of this SWAT team said that they were supposed to get some face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service members whenever they arrived, and that never happened for some reason.
Yes.
And also, of course, like lots of this same person also said, like, yeah, we were like, there's a lack of coordination and communication, as you already mentioned, from the Secret Service to the local police team. Of course, like, maybe you can take that with like a grain of salt, because like you might think like, okay, like we want to sort of cover our own asses, and like shift the blame from us to the Secret Service if we made any like fuck ups. Like, so there's always like the possibility of that. So you might want to take it with a grain of salt. But also, I mean, maybe I shouldn't just be taken seriously at all on this. But I would think like, okay, if it gets reported to you that there's some guy like measuring distance with like a rangefinder while the president is like on stage outside of the security, and he's outside the security perimeter, and he's already been noted as suspicious. I would think you should, if you get notified of that, you should have this guy like brought aside and like questioned, like maybe immediately. But I don't know. Maybe
I do think they did try to do that, but they lost sight of him and they couldn't find him, and they were looking around for him. And then by the time they saw him, he was already on the roof.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, so I think about. Okay, I guess that's fair. And then like one last thing about that. So I heard that he was like spotted like by someone, maybe some like local civilians like on the roof with a gun like 10 minutes before the shooting. And like of course like in these 10 minutes like Trump was not taken off of the stage by like, Secret Service agents. So but like apparently like I couldn't like find anything about like exactly like how that didn't get to the Secret Service agents or something like that. Maybe that's not their fault. That's like the information just couldn't get there in time, or there was some like fuck up on the part of the local police. But
my understanding is that no one knows why that's the case. They're still trying to figure that out. There's a lot of like questions about like what exactly went wrong. There was also the most incredible thing though about the whole thing is that there was a sniper team literally in the same building complex that he was like climbing on to shoot Trump. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
They just didn't notice him for some reason.
As far as I understand, though, like shortly before the like shooting, like literally seconds before, there was also like an officer heading up to the roof to try and like.
So that was they did find him at the last minute, and that's true. So one of the local police officer managed to climb onto the roof to like confront him. This was literally seconds before the shooting. And he was like trying to climb. He was like had both of his hands on the edge of the roof, trying to hoist himself up. And then the shooter like pointed his gun at him to like, threaten to shoot him. So then he like, he didn't really. To be fair, I don't really blame him that much for this because I don't think he didn't really have an option. It was either get shot or just drop down. So he just dropped down, and I think he like injured his ankle. It was like 8 feet or something. And then immediately afterwards, he started shooting Trump. But my understanding is that like he didn't have because he had both his hands trying to like haul himself up. I don't know if he would have been able to react. Yeah, so he may have made the right choice to drop down because otherwise he just would have been shot. I'm not sure. I mean, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know enough about like rules of engagement or whatever. But yes, that is true. They did find him like at the last second, but it was kind of too late.
So they like knew he was. So did the Secret Service like know he was on the roof before Trump went on stage?
Yes, they did apparently, and they also told their sniper teams about him. I think that was like right before Trump went on stage. It was like. Yeah, they did know there was someone suspicious on one of the roofs. It was like, it was almost 10 minutes before Trump went on stage. But there were some issues, I would say, with the sniper team. So there were like, okay, as far as we know, there were like 4 sniper teams. 2 Secret Service, they're not sniper teams, they're counter sniper teams. They're not actually trying to snipe. They're trying to counter snipers, so counter sniper teams. So there were
Ooh,
There was
interesting slip up there.
sure, sure. Uh, so there were two Secret Service sniper teams. So okay, Trump is like making a speech, and there's like a rally with like stands, and then behind him are like two like barns, I guess, or I think because it's like some sort of farm county fair or something. So they're like two barn buildings, and there was two counter sniper teams on each barn that were right behind Trump. And then there was a local law enforcement sniper team like further to the south on another building. And then there was the one in the same building complex that we had talked about earlier, but they were inside, not on top of a roof. And so, yeah, when it comes to the Secret Service sniper teams, basically there was a tree like right in the middle of where the shooter was, Crooks, between them, in the line of sight of the northern barn Secret Service sniper team, counter sniper team. So they would not have been able to see him or shoot him because of the tree. But then the other one would have been able to see him. But there's this like the roof that he was on was like has like this slope and like a peak. So if he's climbing up on the roof, like shimmying up, I guess, they would not have been able to see him until he's actually has his head above the peak of the roof to be able to like shoot at Trump. So, and they would not have seen that much. So that's probably why they couldn't see him, because he was probably like not aiming at Trump yet. If that makes sense. Or at least, or maybe he was. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know for sure. But if I had to guess, that probably played a role in why they didn't see him. Also, there was probably some confusion about who was on the roof, whether there was a police officer on the roof, etc. So, because they knew that people were trying to get him. So, yeah, we don't know everything, but I'd imagine there's some things those are probably some of the contributing factors of why they didn't shoot him early, or didn't. Yeah, it took him a while to shoot him.
If you had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the third counter sniper team, the local police?
Well, there were two. There was one in the building. I didn't see him. And are you talking about the other one?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm assuming, had the same issue as the Secret Service, and they were further away, right? So they would have had an even harder time seeing him, especially on the roof. They would have had a similar issue as like there wasn't a tree in the way, but they would have had the similar issue of like the sloped roof and stuff. Now, if you go to the actual event, the first counter sniper team to actually shoot at Crux was the local, probably based on kind of analysis that I've seen of like the videos, was probably that local law enforcement team. But they seem to have missed, and it was the second, because there were two shots that were fired that were not from Crooks, and one of them seemed to have been from this local law enforcement counter sniper team, which seems to have missed, and then the other one was from the Southern Secret Service counter sniper team, the one that could actually see him, that didn't have the tree in the way.
Right. And then like asked why, like, okay, like why didn't like the Secret Service agents, like, who were by Trump as he was going on stage, like, why they didn't like pull him off stage or prevent him from going on stage? Like, we don't really know.
We don't know. I guess it's some communication problem or lack of understanding of like whether he had a gun or not. I have no idea, but probably I suspect some miscommunication happened.
Okay, so we've discussed the like series of like failures of the local police team and the Secret Service when it came to actually like apprehending Crooks and preventing him from like getting his shot off in time. And that's what led to him getting like being so like relatively successful as he was and getting so close to accomplishing his goal of shooting Trump. Now okay, so he's like on the roof. He just like aimed his gun at the police officer who was pursuing him up the roof. The police officer dropped down 8 feet, hurt his ankle. Okay, and then he goes to like shoot Trump right after. Okay, what happened then?
So his first shot like grazed Trump's ear and like barely missed him. Well, I didn't miss him, it hit him, but like it just seems to have just grazed his ear. Also, Trump was like pointing at like this graph involving like immigration or whatever, and seems to have like turned his head, like pointed the graph, and then the bullet seems to have gone right by him and grazed his ear. So and then that bullet seems to have just hit like one of the stands, didn't seem to hit anyone. Then he's had a second shot, which hit, I think, one of the bystanders. So there's people on either side of Trump, because there's people behind him and around him to some extent, and there's people in front of him. People in front of him are like on chairs on the ground. People behind him are on these like stands. So that like whenever you see clips of Trump, there's always like people behind him. So he looks, I don't know, I guess that's always been the case. So and then there's like people kind of around him. So the shot was coming from, if you're facing Trump, it was coming from the left, and it was going towards Trump. Seems to have just grazed his ear and then gone to the right. And then the second shot missed Trump. I don't know if he had like reacted yet with the second shot, but it missed Trump. And then it seems to have hit one of the bystanders. And then Trump like gets down. And then we have like a whole volley of other shots. And I think fourth shot, so it hit someone in the head, but that person was on the left, so they were on one of the stands in front of them. And you can see in the videos, like everyone else ducks down, but for some reason this guy didn't or something. I don't know. It's not actually fully clear. He was filming Trump. I don't know. Well, okay, there's different stories about this guy. Okay, so one story is that he jumped to protect his family, which is what I'm not sure if, I don't know if that's true. That's what his family said, and the governor of Pennsylvania said that. I don't want to like say, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But I've seen some analysis that seems to show he's just filming. But also the gunshots were coming from behind him and hit him in the head. So, I'm assuming he must not have gotten in the way. I don't know. It's not clear what happened. But in any case, he got hit in the head. And then I think another person got hit by the other volleys, and the rest didn't hit anyone. So the total of 4 people were shot, including Trump and 3 other victims. And then the local police counter sniper shot him and seems to have missed, but he stopped shooting. They must have like hit nearby, and then the Secret Service counter sniper team has shot him I think they shot him in the face, to be honest. And then that was that. He was dead. And then Trump was escorted away, and there's those famous pictures where he decides to give up a fist, and he's like bleeding, and then he's driven away, and then everyone's trying to figure out what happened after that. And also the victims, I think, were taken to an ambulance and stuff. So yeah, I think that seems to be what happened, more or less.
Okay, I see. So I guess like what we're getting here is it really was like kind of like spectacular because like one, you have like just all of these like really like unfortunate and crazy like conveniences for Crook when it comes to like fuck ups on the part of like the Secret Service and the local police, where it's like, okay, they weren't able to like coordinate to apprehend him and find him in time. When they got notified that he was like on the roof, like for some reason, like they didn't take him like Trump off the stage or prevent him from going up. And then like he happened to be positioned in just the right way on this building, like such that people with sight of the building like couldn't see him. And for other sniper teams, there's a tree blocking.
Well, to be fair, it actually, I mean, there was a position in which he could have actually been blocked by a tree by both sniper teams if he had been slightly more to the left, but he didn't do that, which is actually fortunate.
Yeah, which is like a fortunate coincidence. And then we have the other fortunate coincidence for Trump, which is that he just happens to like turn his head to point at the prompter, which is what seemed to happen.
He gets this like extremely minor wound. Yeah, like his wound. I mean, he was bleeding a lot, but it's not like it wasn't a very major wound. It just like grazed the tip of his ear, and he seems to have been fine after that. So yeah, it's a pretty minor wound.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunate though, someone died, so that's bad.
No, that's not. And then the most bizarre of all, there's like an actual like sniper team in the building that he climbed up on top of. Who?
It's in the same building complex.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be on
the, they were supposed to be on the roof.
Yeah, but like for some reason, we're not sure. Like some people said it was because it was too hot for them, and so that's why they didn't. Others said, what was the other reason?
Not enough manpower. I have no idea. Yeah. I don't know enough about why exactly. There were supposed to. Yeah, there were 3 of them, and actually one of them seems to have been one actually spotted Crooks and then like walked off to look for him, and so it's not clear. There's a lot of I think there'll be a lot of investigating, and there'll be probably a big report at the end of it.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, the director of the Secret Service resigned already, so
yeah, after having a compressed big press. So basically, like there were lots of like bizarre things and like improbable things that like happened, which ended up being like both fortunate and convenient for the shooter, but also unfortunate for him, fortunate for Trump, etc. So like obviously like in the wake of shooting, like lots of people have been wondering like, okay, this is like all weird, like how could this like happen? And so people have had a lot to say about that. So I think we should like get to the main meat of this section and talk about that.
All right.
Indeed.
So I guess. Does anyone want to introduce, or do you want me to just like go off?
I mean, one way of setting it up is just like it seems like like all of the stuff you've presented so far, it seems like the shooting on your narrative involved like a long string of pretty like improbable and unfortunate coincidences or happenstances that allowed the shooter to get as far as he did. So it's sort of like this is sort of like a obviously ripe sort of grounds for somebody who wants to believe a conspiracy theory about the shooting to come around and say, hey, look, I have a theory on which none of these were random or unfortunate coincidences, and so why not believe that if it explains these otherwise sort of disparate and unlikely events? So I guess how do you go about addressing the conspiracy claim in this case? Given
so what are some of the main like conspiracy claims that like different people have offered, just to give us an idea of what they are and how people think they explain?
Yeah, I've seen like multiple shooters, like a hypothesis involving multiple shooters. So there's not just one shooter; it was like a bunch of shooters. Like the one I saw, I forgot the name of the guy, John Cullen, I think his name was. He was interviewed by Brett Weinstein. I listened to the whole podcast, and he has this like 3. He may have updated this since then, but when he was being interviewed by Weinstein, he had like 3 shooters involved, shooting from different directions, I guess. Right. It's hard to like. I don't think I can like fully disprove that like, the Secret Service was like purposely giving him lax like security, just hoping someone would shoot him or some. I mean, I don't think I have enough information. I mean, I don't. Like, I just feel like it's a very weird way to like try to shoot someone. I mean, if you kill someone, I don't know. I guess you're just like hoping that some random person tries to shoot him. I mean, but like there was security. It's not like there was no security. It just there seems to have been a lack of communication. I don't know if that was like. I don't know if I can like disprove that. I mean, I'd say I'm still like very skeptical of that because it does seem a bit. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't like fit parsimony. You would have to add this whole extra layer of like assumptions in your hypothesis. So yeah, but presumably there'll be reports that look into it. But I'm skeptical of the Secret Service being on it theory. But yeah, the main ones I've seen are multiple shooters. I've also seen ones from people more on the left. I guess you think it was like staged by Trump to make himself a martyr or something. But I haven't seen like in-depth like explanations for that. I just see people saying that. Maybe there are like really complicated explanations, but or at least in detailed explanation. But I've just seen like people say like, oh well, Trump's ear doesn't have any damage afterwards, so Trump wasn't actually shot, or he wasn't shot by bullet, or there's a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah. Like a point about like at least like one of these things. When you consider these like sort of conspiracy explanations, it's like very important to take into account like priors, which is like what's the initial plausibility or probability you would like assign to some event having happened before you look at the evidence. Because like with any like observations or event we have when we want to formulate hypotheses about why it happened, like you can always come up with some like multiple different hypotheses that explain like the data. So for instance, if I wake up in the morning and I find out that like my shoes are missing, one explanation is just like, oh, I like lost my shoes, or I put them somewhere differently than I normally do, and I forgot where they were. And then another hypothesis is that there were a bunch of like fairies that came and stole my shoes. Now like both of those hypotheses, those like explain like why my shoes are missing. But like one, the fairy hypothesis has like way lower initial plausibility because presumably like my background information is like, okay, we've never seen any fairies. I'm very skeptical that there are magical creatures like fairies that would specifically have the intention to steal my shoes in particular. Yada yada yada. Whereas like people forget their shoes, like where they put their shoes and where they put things like all the time. I've done that in the past, so I'm going to leave that explanation over the fairy explanation. And so like similarly, when we're considering okay, like why did the Secret Service, like how come the guy was able to get so close? Why didn't the Secret Service do more? Like we have like one where it's like, okay, there were like communication failures and like fuck ups and some like improbable yet fortunate for the shooter coincidences, like where he happened to be on the roof, etc., etc. And then we have like, okay, the like Secret Service team like conspired. One more wild one is, oh, the Secret Service team was in on it and they like conspired to help the shooter out. And it's like, well, I wouldn't expect them to actually like want to do something like that just because it's very risky if they get found out, like they're screwed. Like there's a lot of culpability on the line.
And also, there's no history of them doing. Well, some people might think there's, but there is no history of them really doing that in the past.
Yeah, and it should be noted.
JFK didn't happen. That's
true. We'll talk about that soon. And like it should be noted like one like that's like a very like that's like one that one like find like quite implausible. And then like another theory might be, okay, like they were just like sort of like lax, like they like saw some suspicious things and they're like, oh, I don't like Trump, I'm not going to put as much effort into it as I ordinarily would. Like I would say like that's like more plausible.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
that is the most plausible, like like that's the most plausible, like nefarious kind of explanation, I guess.
Yeah.
But even then, like another one could just be like, well, I mean, how many Trump rallies do they have to manage? Like, how many times have they had false alarms about people who are suspicious, right? You have to go through that, and they might just think like, oh my God, we've seen so many of these. It's probably just another false alarm. You could have like some situation like that.
Yeah,
where,
good.
Yeah, just like you have to look at like the background. But the problem is we don't know all this, right? We don't know what they know because they have to do like I don't know. Trump does rallies all the time. I mean, how many Trump rallies have they had to secure? Like they probably have a history of like seeing a lot of false alarms, so they may have been a bit lax because of that, not necessarily because they hate Trump.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure true. And it's worth noting that they were overly relaxed out of like non-maleficent. Is that a word? Maleficent? Maleficent? Malevolent.
I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, malevolent.
Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, so it's worth noting that it seems like this theory that they were just overly lax or lazy out of sort of like non-malevolent reasons. It would seem like that hypothesis explains like all the same data as the conspiracy hypothesis. Because if the case for the conspiracy hypothesis is like, oh well, what are the odds that you would get all of these disparate coincidences or like unfortunate circumstances? And I can propose this conspiracy theory that basically explains in a unified way why all of these coincidences happened. It seems like if you're positing, like laziness, negligence, non-malevolent negligence or something, you similarly are able to explain all the same data in a unified way, which I guess is just worth mentioning for the audience as a consideration. I also wanted to I also was wondering maybe we could talk a little bit because I feel like one important thing in terms of how we're assigning our priors for the conspiracy hypothesis. One thing that seems relevant is you look at the different versions of the conspiracy hypothesis, and then we try and figure out like how many different people or like levels of organization would need to be like in the know or involved in the conspiracy given the way that it played out. So like what were the different you mentioned like Secret Service and so on, but like how far down the chain of command would this conspiracy have to go? Because I guess it sort of seems like
far up.
Yeah, well, it sort of seems to me like if a lot of the mistakes that are supposed to provide a motivation for the conspiracy theory came on the part of people who were like lower down in the chain of command and who wouldn't plausibly be involved in like a high up conspiracy to like allow Donald Trump to get killed or something, then that would seem to like drastically lower the probability of the conspiracy hypothesis. So I guess like maybe we just take two different versions of the conspiracy hypothesis, like one in which this was all orchestrated to kill Donald Trump, and another one where the kid acted of his own volition, but they kind of were aware of it and like had a suspicion he was going to do something, but they didn't intervene because they like secretly wanted Trump to die or something. Like on both of those versions of the conspiracy hypothesis, like how far-reaching would the conspiracy have to be? How many different people and workers would have to be involved with that? I guess.
Well, I think the first one obviously would be more complicated because it also like you would have the director of the Secret Service giving orders to like orchestrate Trump's death, and you'd have there would be presumably everyone in the Secret Service, like so it requires I don't know about everyone, but like big higher ups, and there would have been like, and also and like they would have to, if it's all coordinated, they would have to like recruit crooks, I guess, and like find him and then like set him like on Trump, which seems like I don't know, like is he like the best person? Like he missed, right? So I don't know. And then why would you shoot him after he missed, right? When you want to let him keep shooting? There's some like issues with that. The other one, I guess, would be that would be more plausible, just because like you can say like, okay, there's certain people who are around Trump who don't like him for whatever reason, and I don't know like some of the priors on that. Like, can you like I have not thought about this. I don't know if like for example, could Trump like select Secret Service agents he likes? Like I don't know what if he could do that or not, because that would if that's true, it could like make it less likely, more likely, right? Because you could have Trump like Secret Service agents who like Trump and Secret Service agents who don't, and stuff like that. The other one. I mean, again, why did they shoot him? They wanted him to Trump to die. Like, I mean, maybe you could say like, well, like Trump had already been. It's too late, so they shot him anyway. Like, I don't think it was quite too late, but yeah, I do think it's more plausible, but I have not looked into it in detail. There's probably some questions that can make it more or less plausible you can answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like it's like worth considering like okay, like they did like go and look for him. They did try to climb onto the roof. And
that was the local law enforcement, not the Secret Service.
Yeah. And
you
could say that. And then it's like at the end of the day though, they didn't end up like shooting him. So it's like like it seems like you have to like say like something like okay, like they were like basically they didn't care enough, like they hate Trump so much that they don't care enough, like to stop like the shooter like initially or have the proper like communication. They ignore stuff too much, but then at the same time they care enough to immediately like try and kill this guy like right after he starts shooting and not let him get away. So you might think there's a.
But even if there was like there's like if you're gonna have like if you're gonna allow a shooter to kill Trump and the shooter fails, like like I think you're just gonna be impeached. There's gonna be like investigations and like you know what I mean. Like I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be incentives to not
people
do that.
not be like lax and
Because
stuff
they're going to
as
be like, investigating. You might end up being fired. Like, if you really want to kill Trump, I would like make sure he like kills Trump, or at least you put a big effort into it. You know what I mean?
that's generally the point. Like, which is that if you're too lax, like clearly you have an incentive not to be like too lax, even if you don't like the guy, because you'll get like screwed if you screw up or if you're lax. So
yeah.
Go ahead. So those are reasons to be like, I think like skeptical, or I think like it's like initially like pretty implausible that the failures were a result of some like malevolent attitudes or intentions on the part of the Secret Service, or like some like factor of them not like caring enough. You might think that's more initially implausible than like the idea that okay, they're improbable. Like if you repeat like similar enough events enough times, like improbable things like can happen sometimes, etc.
Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. Yeah, like how many Trump rallies are there? Right, there's bound to be improbable events that happen to them because there's so many of them, right?
Yeah, like it's like like okay, like there being like all of these like fuck ups and things like that on the part of the security team. Okay, like like there's like a low chance of all of them happening in exactly that way, but like okay, like humans like mess up. Sometimes there are like failures in the chain of communication. If you like repeat it enough times, the more opportunities there are for that to occur. It seems like that's like relatively more plausible than like some malevolent intentions or lack of effort on behalf of the Secret Service when they have all the incentives like not to be that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's less probable. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to go over
to add? Oh yeah, we can go over
the like more kind of crazy conspiracy?
Should we talk about like maybe the Democrat, the more liberal conspiracy theories like first about like Trump?
Yeah, we can do that. That one's like strange. So like people are like saying that like Trump has no ear damage and stuff. But, like he very clearly does if you look at the recent pictures. Like it's not major ear damage, but it is. You can tell like there's like some ear damage. Like his ear has been like there's like healing. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Like I've seen like pictures where his like earlobe is kind of more dented in that area than it was before. Also there's like a difference in color. I think it's like a minor, I think it's I think there actually is ear damage. But people are saying that there wasn't, and I guess the implication is like that it was all like staged somehow by Trump to like make himself look good. I mean, like someone died. Like I don't know how that like did they? I don't know what they mean by like stage. Like I guess it's like I haven't seen people go into detail on this. So maybe they just seem kind of pretty implausible. Like there's clearly with someone with a gun. We have like a dead shooter. We have the gun. We have like someone who got shot and killed. And we saw him like bleeding on live TV or live TV. So those theories I think they're just like partisan like claims made by people who I guess like disbelieve everything involving Trump at all and anything positive. Or positive, not exactly positive, anything that makes him like look somewhat like a victim, I guess. I think they're suspicious of, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of just like ignoring the evidence. They're just looking at what happened and suspicious. What?
Well, so you were just talking about the theory that he's received no ear damage.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's another version of this sort of liberal side of the conspiracy theorizing where it's like, okay, maybe he did receive some ear damage, but it like wasn't directly from the bullet. Like maybe it hit something else and there's like a glass shard that like cut
and then
his
Trump's
ear.
like claiming it to make himself look better.
Yeah.
So that one's like more plausible. And to be fair, like initially, like there were reports that it was like glass or something, and the FBI director himself said he wasn't sure when asked about it. I think at the hearing, but I don't know. Like first of all, the main theory was that it was like the teleprompter that got hit by a bullet and the glass like shattered and like a shard of glass hit Trump's ear. They found, I think, the Associated Press found like pictures of the teleprompter afterwards, and it was like intact, like there was no damage. So that theory seems to be, and like we have like pictures that was taken by New York Times journalists where you literally see the bullet going by him. And I mean, you could say it's not a bullet, but like I don't know, it's going in like the direction of the shooter, like past Trump, and it's after like it grazed his ear. Like, I don't know what else that would be, right? If it was glass, wouldn't it be like going in another direction? Wouldn't there be multiple things flying in the air? Why is it just like a single object that looks kind of metallic? That's hard. I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of like grayish. Like to me, it just seems like very implausible that it was anything else but the bullet. And the FBI later came out and said that it was a bullet that hit grazed Trump's ear. So, yeah.
And it's like also like worth noting that like there are like also like other things like we can like defer to, like for example like betting markets, and betting markets like historically just have a very reliable track record at like predicting these sorts of things. If you like disagree with like a betting market, like either you're probably wrong or you can like make money off of it, in which case like you'll put money in, and then because of that it'll drive the chances that betting markets give to be more accurate. And betting markets that I've seen on this like question that tend to be and these ones tend to be like pretty reliable historically, like they give like almost a 99% chance that Trump was in fact hit by a bullet. So that's just another thing.
Yeah, I think some of the reasons that people I guess are skeptical is because like one of Trump's like, I don't know if it's like his personal doctor, but like there's this guy named Ronnie Jackson who's a doctor who put out like a statement where he said it was a bullet and denounced anyone who suggested otherwise, or whatever. People are suspicious of that guy because he's like this Trump partisan hack. He's literally like a politician. I think he's a representative in the House, he's a Republican, and he has like a weird history of like apparently he got like fired as like he was like the physician for like the White House, I think, or something, but he got fired by the government for like handing out drugs and stuff too much or something like that. And so like people are like, oh well, we can't trust him, so we can't like they're suspicious. But I'm like, okay, even if we can't like rely on what he says, you can look at the other evidence. And I think he's probably right, even if he's not always like the most honest person in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that like reverse stupidity isn't intelligence. Just because you have some guy who's like pretty stupid or gets things wrong a lot, just believing the opposite of whatever he says, isn't going to be a very good way to arriving at truth. Instead, you look to independent indicators that you have available and make up your mind then.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic that he's denouncing conspiracy theories as like a diehard Trump supporter, but whatever. But yeah. So I think those are like the main theories on like the liberal side. I guess we could go into like the Brett Weinsteins of the world if you want to have a more kind of elaborate theory. So yeah, I guess before we go into the multiple shooter hypothesis, we should probably talk about the history of like, because I guess that would give us the priors about it. History of presidential assassinations or presidential candidate or presidential assassination attempts. Yeah. So yeah, most presidential assassination attempts I've seen have been done by like single shooters. So they're either like, I don't know, like ideological or kind of like people motivated by kind of ideological reasons, or they're just literally insane people. So like, I mean, the first presidential assassination attempt was this guy who tried to shoot President Andrew Jackson, but his gun like misfired. And he thought he was Richard III, and if he killed Andrew Jackson, the U.S. government would like give him money because he's Richard III, and he would make a lot of money. So yeah, he was kind of like an insane person, I guess. The other, yeah. So the other ones were, yeah. I mean, the ones who were actually killed, we have Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Garfield, William McKinley, and of course JFK. We have like Ronald Reagan, who was wounded, but he wasn't killed, and we also have Teddy Roosevelt, who was also wounded but not killed. And then we have Trump, of course. So yeah, Lincoln was actually killed in a kind of conspiracy. Like John Wilkes Booth was not acting alone, but he was like a single gunman. He was the only one at the scene of the crime. But like there were multiple people he was working with who were trying to kill other members of the government. He was like a pro-Confederate sympathizer who wanted to like revive the Confederacy. But I mean, by assassinating the heads of the government, I guess. But yeah, his like plot was discovered like almost immediately, and so all his conspirators were arrested, I guess. There was also Garfield was killed by literally some like crazy person who like was mad that he wasn't appointed ambassador to France or something, even though like he was this really random person. Yeah, that guy was. Yeah, so I would say that guy was probably mentally ill, but he was acting alone. And yeah, McKinley was shot by an anarchist who, as far as I know, was acting alone. Teddy Roosevelt was shot by a crazy person who said this ghost was telling him to shoot. Like I think he had schizophrenia or something. He was insane, I guess, but he was also acting alone. And yeah, and then JFK, who I mean, okay, people are gonna get mad at me for this, but like the consensus among historians is that Oswald was acting alone when he shot JFK. So is that? And yeah, Reagan again shot by a crazy person, I guess, or something. So yeah, in general, usually they're like people acting alone. The only case of a successful presidential assassination where multiple people was like Abraham Lincoln. So
what about, like,
you know,
attempted.
I mean, we have so there's Reagan, which is an attempted one. He was shot by some guy who thought he killed Reagan. This like actress with I can't remember.
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Jodie Foster.
He wanted to impress her.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I think, yeah.
For attempted assassinations, is it a similar story? Like most of them, as far as we can tell, are like lone gunmen.
Well, Truman was nearly killed by two people. Who were working together. They were like these Puerto Rican independence activists who tried to kill him. So, but yeah, I think that's like the exception. Most of the other ones are like single people. I mean, there's some like plots from certain people. I think Al Qaeda's come up with plots to kill presidents, but they didn't like get close. I don't think. One crazy guy like tried to like hijack a plane. I think. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there's other attempts like that. The close ones, I think. Yeah, usually they're like people acting alone. They're usually either like crazy people or like mentally ill, or they're kind of like people in these like very kind of like have particular like more extreme, I guess, political ideologies, or maybe a combination of both. Yeah, usually. So yeah, most of them are. Sometimes you have like small groups of people working together, but you don't usually. There's never been like a government conspiracy, as far as I'm aware. Like, well, actually, no, I don't think there ever has been at all. Like, it's people like inside the government, like acting in a conspiracy to. I think there was like a plot by the Confederacy, I think, during the Civil War to like kidnap Lincoln or something, but like that was it, I think. So, but they didn't go anywhere, you know. So yeah, I think our priors would indicate that like he's probably a lone gunman just based on like the history of presidential assassination attempts.
And also probably there wasn't a conspiracy.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
where it's like multiple people like planning or assisting him or something.
I mean, there's some cases, yeah, like I said, Abraham Lincoln, there was multiple people.
But you know,
even if there was multiple people, like in every single case I've seen, it's like either it's like government comes up with a plan, like an enemy government of the U.S. and it doesn't go anywhere. Like I think it was like Iraq or something at one point, or groups like Al Qaeda come up with plans, or they're just like small groups. Like in Lincoln's case, it was like a small group of people.
Yeah. In terms of like people who act, where it's like okay, someone actually like is there like nearby the president and actually makes an attempt, that actually comes somewhat close. Most of the time it's like there are like single people.
And one case is like two people.
Yeah, one case is two people. Most of the time it's single people. There have been like a couple cases where it's been like two people, or where there's been some sort of like larger conspiracy or coordination. But most of the time it's like one person like acting on their own because they're like crazy or they have some political motivation or something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that, from what I've seen of all the kind of known attempts.
Yeah. So I guess before we like before we like look at the evidence that's like brought to bear, we should like have like pretty high priors in it being like a similar sort of story where it's like probably some like lone guy who like wasn't part of the conspiracy who's like motivated either by like mental illness or like some sort of like political motivation or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say like that would give us our kind of default, I guess, assumption and if going in. But of course that could be overturned by like good strong evidence or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, the guy like Weinstein interviewed has this like he's been looking into it. He has this like multiple shooter hypothesis that he bases it on like footage of like people acting weird during the crowd. I think mostly. So like he thinks there was like evidence of like another like bullet going through the crowd. Like so if you look at I think it's the right balcony or whatever it's called, the place not balcony, stage thing, whatever. I'm blanking. But like where the people are sitting like on elevated platforms. So there's like a row at the back and it's like at the top. And he thinks there's like evidence of like people reacting like in a certain order when like the first shot is hit. Which he claims is the same one. Like he says, like the Secret Service team was acting weird because as soon as like the gunshot started, they moved slightly to like adjust their gun, I guess, which he says like is you're not supposed to do that. So he thinks like, oh, the only way. So his explanation is that like someone was shooting at the Secret Service and then like hit a bunch of people in the crowd, and he has this like evidence of like this guy who happens to like fall down like right at the same time as the first gunshot. But like I don't know. Like the thing is, yeah, go ahead.
Really? Oh, and so like okay, so there are these like all these like he claims some sort of like weird like sort of like things going on, and he claims that in some way this is accounted for by there being like multiple shooters. Like, what's the exact like hypothesis more precisely? That
well, he doesn't. He's saying that there's another because he thinks the direction of the bullet doesn't line up with. So he creates the direction of the bullet by tracing it from. He thinks the bullet went near the sniper team because they ducked or something. So he thinks there's a bullet that went through there, and then like people acted in a certain way such that he thinks the bullet like hit a bunch of people. So he thinks like people got hit and they react, and he thinks that either they react in such a way that he like creates this like he like creates the like line of like where the bullet came from. So then you can like trace it back to where it comes from, and it comes from the woods somewhere, I guess. Yeah, there's like some weird. So he thinks there's another shooter in the woods, but like. And there's some major problems with this, but yeah.
And if I remember correctly, like he also notes that there were like a couple of people at the scene who were interviewed afterwards who seemed to say something like, "Oh, there were shots that came from a water tower."
Yeah, but that's a separate. So that's his second. So that's his third shooter. So he has one guy in the woods and one guy in the water tower. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he thinks the shot that hit Trump was the one from the water tower.
Okay.
But there was another shot at the same time, I think, that also was shot at the Secret Service sniper team. So he thinks that at the same time, like Crooks, someone on the water tower, they all started shooting at the same time.
Okay.
That's his theory.
Okay, so that's his theory. We went over like why exactly he believes it.
Well, I guess I also know the water tower thing. So he claims that he sees like a suspicious shadow that moves around on the water tower, and that's evidence of someone on the water tower. That's like
Okay, okay, so what is wrong with the pieces of evidence he brings up?
So first of all, like the stands where people are, and like the sniper team, like the people I think are below where the sniper team are, and like bullets generally kind of go in straight line. Well, not exactly. They curve down eventually, but they generally go in like somewhat straight line. Especially like with the distances, we can just assume it's like a straight line, right? Involved here, so the distances aren't huge. But so like in order for them to like actually hit all the people in the crowd and also be aimed at the Secret Service, they have to be in the air above the trees. Like I don't understand how he doesn't see that as a problem. Like I don't see because like it's just like the position of like the people getting shot and the sniper team. Like it doesn't like does he think it was like a helicopter or something? I don't know. It seems a bit involved. I didn't see any helicopters. The other one, yeah, there's some other issues like the shadowy figure on the water tower is obviously like not a person. It's just like there's this like thing that sticks out of the water tower that's like a ball, and like there's this like the sun is like facing in a certain direction, and part of it is dark, and that's literally what he's seeing. But it like moves a bit because like one, the quality of the footage is bad, and two, like it was a hot day and the air like shimmers, so it's like things move around a bit. So like I don't think it's not very strong evidence. And also the more fundamental problem is that like if you can look at the line of sight from the water tower to where Trump was, that like screen that had the graph or whatever that Trump was pointing at, like literally is in the way of the water tower. So I'm sorry, in the way of the line of sight to Trump from the water tower. So it's
there's like no way he could see Trump just take a shot at him if he was on the water tower.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just like what? And then and also he claims like some of these people are acting weird. Like okay, people all started ducking as soon as they heard gunshots. Like so they all kind of are a bit acting weird. Like the guy he claims was shot, he started ducking and then he slipped and he fell. And we actually see video footage of him like walking around or asking for help because like he was in the same stands as one of the guys got shot. He was like we see videos of the same guy like trying to wave down like law enforcement to help the other guy. And I'm like that doesn't seem like if he was shot, you would think he would be kind of more hurt or something on the ground.
Bleeding.
Yeah. We don't have any evidence of anyone else except for those three people. Well, actually four, to include Trump, who were like wounded. So.
And okay, so what about you mentioned these other things like this, like the people like falling down weirdly, like one after the other. You talking about there?
Yeah, one of them was the guy I mentioned. The other one is this woman who like moves her hand backwards, like as soon as the gun starts firing. Yeah, it's like okay, I mean, I don't know, she's like reacting, I guess. The problem is like I think he's like people start reacting all over the place once they hear like gunshots, and I think he's just like looking for kind of bits of like people reacting in such a way that it, like gives him like I think I don't think it's evidence of anything. I think it's kind of random, and I think he's just like cherry picking like reactions of certain people to get like some sort of reaction. And I think it's just outweighed by the other evidence, like the evidence of them seemingly being fine afterwards, just like, seems to completely overrule his theory.
Yeah. And then of course, like okay, there were like a couple of people who like said, oh, there was someone on the shots coming from the water tower. They shot someone on the water tower.
Oh yeah, that too. That I mean, I would just say it's confusion. Like people don't know. Like when there's like a chaotic situation, people start shooting. You look over, you see a water tower. Like people are very confused, and also I think again it's another example of cherry picking. Like I think there were a lot of people who were pointing at corrupts. There's no evidence of anyone on the water tower. You see the footage. No one's on the water tower. You would think if they're gonna shoot Trump from the water tower, they'd be on like the platform. But he has this crazy theory where they're like somehow on the side, I guess, or whatever at the top. Like, and he says they're on like using straps or something. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's just like I don't see anything.
Reminder, like all of this, we're also ignoring the fact. This whole thing ignores the fact that there's this like the screen or whatever that like literally blocks the line of sight, so we can't like see Trump to shoot at him. Why would you go on the water tower to shoot at someone if you can't see where they are?
And I think so I think the explanation for the people saying that it was on the water tower was just they were confused and they didn't exactly know where it was. And also to be fair, the water tower, like it's on the left side, right? And you could hear gunshots from the left, so you could just look at the left and you think, oh, there's a water tower there. If you left in facing Trump. So it's not implausible that someone would be confused and think it's a water tower.
Yeah. So basically, it's like not super strong evidence. Like okay, there are a bunch of other witnesses who didn't mention anything about the water tower. It's not really that surprising that there would be a couple who did, who thought like they heard something happen over by like the water tower or something like that, given like confusion, etc. And then of course, like all of this is like immediately swamped by everything else, like all the other counter evidence. We don't really see anyone on the water tower. We just see a shadow shimmering in the sunlight. There's like a thing that blocks the line of sight to Trump in front of the water tower. You can't shoot at him from the water tower accurately because you can't see him.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I'm not sure like what he hasn't like proposed exactly who's behind like the complicated multiple shooter craziness. He suggested that it could have been Iran or something, or some like foreign government, and then he was saying that like but the U.S. government is covering it up because it's like embarrassed. And I'm like, okay, I guess like, it just seems really complicated. Like I don't know, there's like a much simpler kind of explanation that seems to have just as much explanatory power.
And like again, like we mentioned before, like we should have high priors of being like a lone gunman who wasn't part of the conspiracy because that's what typically tends to happen. And also it's like if this is part of this like conspiracy on behalf of a foreign government, why would they pick this guy? And then like we've already discussed the issues. This guy, he's not competent at all. He's just like some random
Well, he's not incompetent. There's no evidence of him.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
there's no reason to
yeah,
think he would be.
as far as we know, he's not competent. And then I heard there were, like reports that like, oh, before he had like, done some practicing at some like gun range or somewhere. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong after this, and like, it was known that he was like a terrible shot, or something. What he did.
Oh, I think I've heard that too. I'd have to double check, but yeah, I think that sounds familiar. But yeah, I think the multiple gun shooter promoted by Brett Weinstein is kind of ludicrous, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really want to cancel Brett Weinstein, dude. It's really sad.
I mean, we've already discussed like all the issues with like where he says the other shooters are. It doesn't make any sense. Like one of them's water power.
Dude, this is just
the
like
other one requires someone to be flying above the trees. Like what? Like it's just like the line of sight. Like what? I don't understand. Like you must think it's like a helicopter. Also, I did notice just like as a point of order, he said it was like a forest, but if you look at Google Maps, it's not a forest. It's just like a wooded neighborhood. So like whoever this person is, they had like a helicopter above a wooded neighborhood that shot at Trump, at the Secret Service, missed, shot a bunch of other people. I don't know. It's just like
okay. I think we like worn out this conspiracy theory just as a punching bag enough.
You guys sound like those crying evergreen kids all over again, bro.
Well, Brett Weinstein, I don't know. Brett Weinstein has kind of lost the plot in recent years.
Yeah.
So yeah. Actually, I don't know. He probably lost the plot from the beginning. To be honest, I actually have not paid attention. Yeah, he probably was. I don't know if he was like. I don't know enough about him, but yeah, this particular conspiracy theory seems like ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think unless any of us has anything more to add, which I don't, I think that's a.
Do you want to go into like slightly why people believe these things, like just to speculate a bit on?
Oh, sure. If you want to.
Yeah. So the left, I think it's obvious they don't like Trump and they don't want to give him any kind of victim status. So when I say left, I just mean like liberals, not necessarily left, but anyone like who's not a Republican, or anti-Trump people. I think that's just the motivation there. And I think for the people on the right, I think they're just very. I think a lot of them. Well, Brett Weinstein was conspiratorial in general, and I think a lot of them have this like deep suspicion that the government like hates Trump and people don't like Trump, which is probably true. A lot of people in the government probably don't like Trump, but they think like they must have been involved somehow. So I think that's probably the motivation. It's like this like partisan. Either there's people who are already like prone to believing conspiracy about everything, or there are people who are like kind of motivated by partisan kind of preferences where they don't. Yeah, I think they want to like look for someone to blame is like useful politically. I think for them. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess to be as charitable as possible. I mean, there were like lots of like weird things about this shooting.
Yes, that's true.
Lots of improbable things that happened to it that were.
That's true of a lot of like shootings. Like you could say, a lot of if you look into like big events, like when I say big events, like events that involve like there's like a crowd of people and there's like a shooter and stuff. Like if you look into enough details, you'll find weird stuff. But in this case, the weird stuff is about like related to the security, I guess, which is more significant.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, like I think as we demonstrated, I don't think that what they infer from this is a particularly good explanation.
Yeah.
For the weird things about this minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, we didn't explain why it wasn't the Jews like Ethan originally proposed to.
Yeah. True.
I don't think the shooter is Jewish. So there you go.
Well,
As far as I know.
Look.
I don't think he's Jewish. He doesn't have a Jewish name, so he does not. So.
But I thought this was an established information.
all I'm
going
gonna say is,
friend told us.
all I'm gonna say is, I feel like Israel has their fingerprints all over this shooting. That's what I gathered from what you said.
Okay. Well, I mean, wait, I feel like they would like Trump to be president, to be honest, but at least the current government of Israel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because Trump recently said that if he gets assassinated, he wants the U.S. to like destroy Iran as a reprisal, and Israel would like to see that happen, presumably.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. Yeah. Well, definitely. I think it was established definitively that it was Israel.
Yeah,
so,
it was Israel. Yeah.
Definitely. Brooks was just took a non-Jewish name to hide his Jewishness, obviously.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we've uncovered the real explanation behind this. All right. Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be a wrap. Thank you, Henry, for coming on and
thank you guys
to the bottom of this.
Thank you guys for inviting us. Pretty fun.
We'll invite you back whenever we want to talk about a conspiracy.
Okay. Yeah. Just let me know then.
Okay.
Yeah. Be a JFK bonus episode.
Yeah.
JFK bonus. So yeah.
That's
I'll
right.
show you that it was the Mossad that murdered JFK.
Indeed.